Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television, and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
I'm here. I've returned.
He's back from vacation.
From the Western lands.
From the Western lands. We might be talking about the Western lands,
Las Vegas.
And a movie that we're talking about today.
That's true, yes. I've seen those lands.
I just,
So I returned to you engaged, sir.
I was just gonna ask, anything different? Do you feel any different? Anything exciting happen?
I don't got nothing on these fingers, but I don't think that's the way it works.
Yeah. As long as she's wearing something on one of her
right.
fingers, I think that everything's going okay. So congratulations! It's very, very exciting. I know we said as much at the end of our last episode on Raya, but
she was not a listener.
Well, it didn't come out until after the actual proposal happened anyway. So again, unless she supported us on Patreon, the spoiler was not there for her. But we expected that she would say yes, but there's nothing as good feeling as having the actual confirmation, I'm sure. So,
yes.
So big congratulations are indeed owed to you and Sarah. So it's very exciing.
It was a big ordeal too. So
yes,
we went to.
Well, tell us about it. I'll give you Yeah, that's how they get you. That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. So the day before we went to Zion National Park, which is hands down the most, like, the Grand Canyon's beautiful and awe-inspiring and completely awesome. But Zion National Park is beautiful for all sorts of different reasons. I mean, you have like this barren canyon, and then in the middle of the canyon, I don't know if it's a valley when it's a canyon, but in what would be the valley, okay? You have this river that runs through the valley, and it's fertile, and it would be green, but it wasn't very green because we were going, and it was just snowing and all that, but you could see that it has the capacity to be just lush and full of life and everything else with the walls of a barren canyon. It's ridiculous. It is so beautiful. There's no words to put it in. I can't verbalize how beautiful it was. It's nuts.
Do you think that, I assume you're describing kind of the site of the engagement, right? I mean, you kind of tried to work it in so you'd be around
Okay, so this is the story.
When you pop the question.
We show up to Zion, and there's a series of parking things that you have to, you park at, and then you catch a shuttle to go into the actual national park. You have to buy a shuttle ticket before you go to secure your spot on the shuttle the day you want to go. So Sarah did that before we left for vacation or whatever, and we had the tickets, and we didn't account for the time change from Las Vegas back to Utah. So I take them out of my backpack, and I throw it on the dash of the car. It's like, we got to get new tickets, because I figured the reason why they have a time allotment on there, and they say your ticket's good for an hour, we were over like an hour and a half late. And we're going to have to get new tickets. So hopefully there's room, So I put the tickets on there, and then I was super hungover from the night before. And I navigated there. I was co-captain on this particular excursion, so I sat up front and I didn't sleep on the way there. It was like a 2.5-hour drive. So we get there and we walk down, and it's I swear I did so much walking.
It's good for your legs.
Yeah, it's real good for your legs, good for your lungs, good for your heart, all that. It's not good when you're hungover. And so we walk over to the place where we're supposed to catch the shuttle, and I don't have the shuttle tickets because I left them in the car because I thought they were no good. The lady said, "Yeah, they're good. Just go get them." It's like, fuck, just go get them. It's like a mile trek uphill. You know what I mean? So I start booking it, right? Everybody's waiting on me on the dipshit that left the tickets in the fucking car. So I'm booking it. And all of a sudden, my leg locks up on the way walking back. Like, when I tell you it locks up, I've never experienced this kind of pain. Like, it was like a cramp or something. I don't know. I don't know if it was because I hadn't drank any water. It was just an alcohol diet until the Tuesday or Wednesday I went or whatever, and my leg fucking locked up. I about fell out in the middle of the street, like I couldn't walk. I had to take multiple sits and like beat the shit out of my leg to try to get it to loosen up so I can continue to walk. Like it was horrendous. It was terrible. I get to the car, I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I really don't. I think I'm gonna have to take the car and drive it down. I sat down. I actually sat down on the floor next to the car with my back on the tire. Like, oh, I got to do this. I have to propose today. This is what I was supposed to do. So I talk myself up, and I make it back down to the ticket thing, and we have to wait in line for the shuttle. And the whole time, like, you're waiting in line, I'm laying down on the thing, shaking my leg, getting it to loosen up and everything else. Anyways, bottom line is we get on the bus and we go into the thing, and my leg feels better. Awesome. And while we're on the bus, I'm looking it out because I scouted out where I wanted to do it at. There's a trail called the Canyon Overlook, and it's supposed to overlook the entire canyon. It's like this, and it's supposed to be like an easy hike, mile hike or whatever, very mild, all paved up, or all the way to the trailhead, or not the trailhead, but where the pictures are. Like that's the perfect spot. I researched it. Well, we get in the bus and we're going down the thing. It's not part of the fucking bus route. I'm like, great. What do you have to do to get there? Well, you have to take your car and you have to drive out of Zion National Park, around the city that it's in, all the way out, and then you catch a tunnel, and then you pop up out there. It's like, shit, that's totally out of the question. And Sarah's dad knew that I was going to do it today, and he's trying to come up with reasons, and like, hey, well, maybe we can just do this walk, and then we'll take it out, and then we'll go drive over there and do that. I'm like, shit, we can't do that. It's too inconvenient. It's conspicuous. So, I say, let's just hike it. We don't need to go down that trail. Look at this place. It's beautiful. You know what I mean? We'll be fine without that trail. Let's go over here. And there's, we took the Western Trail out to the Emerald Pools, and that's where I did it at. There was a couple spots where I was like, oh, this is a glorious picture. This is the best place to do it. And I hopped up on this giant rock, and you had to kind of climb up to the top of the rock. So I climb up to the top of the rock. I'm like, Sarah, come on up, climb on top of the rock. She goes, I'm not climbing on top of that fucking rock. I'm like, come on, climb on top of the rock. And she wouldn't come up, so I'm like, I guess this is where I'm doing it.
You could have done it from a very high elevation.
Yeah, as the sunbeams
you're on
travel
one knee,
through the
but
ring.
you're still 10 feet above her.
So we go through, and you can, anybody that's interested in Google the Emerald Pools, but there's like this waterfall, and the waterfall falls into what's called the Emerald Pools, the lower Emerald Pools, and we hopped over this rail. There's this rail there, and then next to the waterfall and the pool, there's this little section here of dirt, and that's where I did it at. And then the backdrop of that is the mountains and stuff. So that's where I did it. I hopped over the rail and I queued up her song, Dan and Shay's song, and I'm sitting there waiting for her to come down. She's walking down. She hears the song playing, and she's, oh, you gonna take my picture? And they're all looking at us. Her whole family's looking at us over, and they're leaning on the rail.
So they know what's coming. And you said her dad does, but is everyone kind of?
And the thing is nobody knew. Nobody knew when it was going to happen, because it was just a feeling thing. But once I saw the picture spot from the rail, I said, this is it. This has got to be it. And once I drove Sarah out, everybody else stayed on the rail. It's like everybody else. Well, Sarah's dad knew. At this point, Austin knew it was going to happen, because I went to take a poop before we started hiking. He's like, oh, I heard what's going to happen. I'm like, yeah, it's going to, do you know where you're going to do it at? I was like, well, I thought I did, but I don't know now. So you'll just have to wait. I don't know where I'm going to do it. So anyways, it was perfect. Everybody was leaning over the rail waiting to take our picture. And then I was going to say some sweet words, but I was like too nervous and shit. Yeah. So I went to take a picture, and then I just, boom, and I planted in the fucking soil. Like there's like a crater where my knee planted, because I just dropped that bitch right in the fucking dirt.
Superhero landing.
Exactly. And then she started shaking and crying, and it was perfect. It was good.
It's very sweet.
And then we did the hike outside of the trail, and I highly, 125% recommend Zion National Park. It is the most, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that Coen Brothers movie with the dude, the gold digger,
Buster Scruggs.
Yes, it reminded me of Buster Scruggs looking for Pocket.
Yeah, Mr. Pocket.
Mr. Pocket. That's what it reminded me. I can picture.
I mean,
early Mormons or Indians or whatever walking over this barren landscape. It's all flat, and they look down, and inside this valley in this canyon is just this lush with a river flowing through it, and all the trees, and it's just incredible, incredible.
Well, sounds like you picked a good spot. Obviously, it was a backup plan that you invented on the fly, but it certainly worked out just all right. So, again, a very big congratulations to you. It's very exciting.
Yes.
So we look forward to the wedding next year sometime, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for telling us that story. Maybe you'll have another story or two to tell us about Vegas when we catch up.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Later.
I guess we could have put that in the catching up section.
No. I wanted to get right into that because, if the listeners ended on that note, and so I didn't want to leave them in suspense for, the 2+ hours that we usually tend to talk about things for. So I think that was an excellent way to start it. That's Andrew's personal fun fact, his fun fact in life. But we're covering 2 movies today. We're covering Minari and Nomadland, 2 kind of, I think, awards darlings, I think, at this point. We'll talk about that in the news as well. But it's the first double feature, I think, that we've done in a long time. I think I looked up, it'd been almost 30 episodes since we'd done a double feature, and this one feels like it's hitting on 2 movies that I think are going to be worth talking about.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of good stuff in these movies to unpack, and so I'm looking forward to doing that with you. But before we do talk about Minari and Nomadland, I think we're going to double up on fun facts as well. So we got a personal fun fact. Now we're going to talk about some film-centric fun facts. So what do you got for us, Andrew, on the fun fact front for Minari, Nomadland, whichever one you want to start with?
Yeah, so I'll start with Minari. Fun fact I got for Minari is it was written and directed by a guy named Lee Chung, and the movie's not it's not based on a true story, but it's a semi-autographical movie, essentially, is what it is, and it was based on Chung's experiences growing up in a farm in Arkansas. And he was a son of South Korean immigrants, and they actually his father still owns a farm today, out in Arkansas. So it's very much the characters that are in it aren't factual characters or historical characters, but they're very much inspired by the writer and the director of this movie, based on his own life, which is pretty fucking fun. That's pretty fun.
And I think that it's pretty apparent when you watch the film, I would say, too. So, okay, that's cool. The bit about his dad still having a farm, I think, is very neat. I had no idea about that. I did know it was a kind of a semi-autobiographical take on his life and experience growing up in America as a South Korean kid. So, yeah, that's very cool. What about Nomadland? Good stuff there, too?
Nomadland. So, I don't know if people know... This is kind of like a 2-parter fun fact.
Okay, all right.
So, depending on where you're at in the world and your exposure to different lifestyles and stuff, I don't know if people know that the people in this movie exist. They might. Mm-hmm. They might. And I feel like I probably sound like an idiot by saying it that way. But I would imagine that if you live in Philadelphia and you've never lived outside of Philadelphia and you're not exposed to a lot of people outside of Philadelphia, you might not know about people like this. The lifestyle of these folks that are in this movie. But being in Zephyr Hills, RV capital of the fucking world, or what have you, I feel like I'm exposed to these people on a daily basis. Or these people, I don't want to say it like that, but people that live a nomadic lifestyle in a sense. Where they, they try to buy a car or whatever, and I can't prove where they live because they live on state, they shacked up on the Hillsborough State Park. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was just, we'll get into it. But that's the first fun fact. This is not based on a true story, but the people, the Zhao is the lady that directed this, right?
Chloe Zhao, yeah.
She the characters that portray the quote unquote nomads in this movie are actually not actors, and these are real people. Mm-hmm. These are real people that live this lifestyle.
Yeah, they're real nomads. Yeah,
exactly. So I thought that was really interesting because I didn't know that going in. I just thought it was telling the story of folks that live this lifestyle, but the people that are actually in the movie are actually people that are living that lifestyle, which I thought was that makes it so much more impactful. I think it's really awesome. So another fun fact for you.
Huh. Well, very cool. Definitely another thing that I think is, something you feel in the film, and it's something we'll talk about when we discuss Nomadland in due time. So thank you for the doubling up of the fun facts. We're going to have double the fun on this episode as we talk through some good news, talk through a couple of good movies, there's a reason they're getting as much awards attention as they are. I think that these are two films that are worthy of the recognition, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more Vegas later and some other things. So we've got a good episode in store. So let's go ahead and get into the news at this point. And I kind of have 3 phases of news for this episode. I've been doing weird and trying new things. We're out there trying new things with the news and, trying to make it more fun and interesting for us by doing a theme or something like that. I don't really have a theme exactly for this one, but I do have what I'm describing as phases. So we're going to talk some release date changes, shifting around and stuff like that. We'll do a little trailer corner, talk a few trailers, and then we'll talk the awards junket because it ties in very heavily to the 2 films that we're talking about on this episode. So to start with the release date mayhem, as we're still experiencing it. The first thing up, Fast and Furious F9 has been pushed back just about a month this time. No dramatic year-long delays for this one, but F9 will now be hitting theaters June 25th instead of its previous release date of May 28th. So it's really sad news. Obviously, we got to wait a little bit longer for the Fast and Furious crew to take their talents to space, but that's okay. That's okay. It gives, and I think maybe what's worth flagging about this is, the Biden administration has made it pretty clear that by May 1st, all adults in the country will be eligible to receive the COVID vaccine, regardless of where they live. Now, that's true in some states, not in others. I think Florida has dropped the threshold down to 50. So unfortunately, you're not quite there yet. But fortunately, you're also not 50 years old, which means you still have 20 years on those people. And also you got your antibodies the hard way for now, so you're probably okay for a little while. Still recommend you get vaccinated. When the eligibility does come up in Florida. But I think the idea here is, hey, most of these, whether you're getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is the 1 dose, or you're getting the Pfizer and Moderna stuff, after 2 weeks after you get your second shot, you're good to go, basically. Obviously, it's not completely infallible, but it's as close to infallible as you could possibly ask for. And that's a huge, huge step in the right direction compared to where we have been for basically a year now. And so, come late June, theoretically, you have all adults eligible for their vaccines have already received their second doses if they get it, even leading up to May 1st or throughout May. And so, I think the hope, certainly that the studios are looking at, is we can populate theaters. We can populate, these theaters and kind of get things back to a hopefully pretty normal state. And especially for something like this, which, as far as we know, is not getting any sort of simultaneous video on demand release or anything like that. I think we can expect F9 to be exclusively in theaters, and that's kind of a rarity still right now. I think funny John Wick, aka Nobody, with Bob Odenkirk is still, I think, hitting theaters on its own. But you've had like Godzilla vs. Kong is coming out and not too long, the end of March basically, and that's going to be split between HBO Max and theaters. And as we'll talk about more things today, there's a lot of movies that are doing the same thing of they'll be in theaters, but they'll also be on blank streaming service or whatever. So anyway, point being, June 25th, maybe it's a good idea because more adults will be vaccinated at that point, and that means that more adults will be going into theaters and watching their Fast and Furiouses because they just can't get enough of that franchise. And who could blame them, really? Beyond that, Minions: The Rise of Gru has been pushed out of the year entirely, which is devastating news for many of us. Now set to hit the big screen on July 1st of 2022, so a full year delay for that one. And I think the reason for that is I specified that it was the adults that were going to be eligible for May 1st. So kids, can still get the virus. And, I think the mortality rate is obviously better for children than it is for for older people, but parents don't want to get their kids sick. And, that's true whether there's a deadly pandemic out there or not. So I think that the idea is if you give it a year's worth of time, people will get more more people get vaccinated. As time goes on, you can kind of stamp it out more and more and more, such that the risk kind of gets lesser and lesser and lesser, and hopefully it'll be a distant memory. It's at some point for those of us lucky enough to survive through this whole mess. So anyway, that's what you have going on the Universal front. F9, sorry, excuse me, moving a month to June, and
but it's not coming to AMC theaters.
I think it'll be in AMC theaters. I think we can bank on that. I think we can bank on that. I'm sure AMC is like we're bleeding. We need anything. We need anything
okay.
right now. So
sorry, Universal. I said bad things.
Yeah,
sorry.
I think they're probably over their little spat at this point because they're bleeding.
Fuck. Bunch of morons.
Anyway, as a result of that, Paramount says, that May 28th date looks great. I suppose it's a little counterintuitive to that whole argument I just said about, late June being a good spot, but May 28th is good enough for Paramount Pictures because they're taking A Quiet Place Part 2 and moving it up, originally set for September 17th of this year, moving it to May 28th. Well, I guess...
that's a thing that's happening.
I mean, I'm excited about Quiet Place. That as we talked about, I think on the 2021 episode, that was one of the first movies that was really, really hit hard by the pandemic. I think maybe a week or two from release when theaters shut down. So, they kind of had. I think they pushed it initially to late 2020, and obviously that didn't pan out. Then they pushed it to a year from that point, and now they're saying, okay, we're in an okay spot. We're looking better. We can get this thing out there in late May. So Paramount, I don't know if we talked about this. Paramount Plus obviously exists. I do know we did talk about that. But they're doing a new thing with their movies. There's going to be a 45-day window between theatrical release and distribution on the Paramount Plus streaming platform. So about a month and a half. So it'll be in theaters for a month and a half exclusively, and then it'll go up on Paramount Plus for those who have Paramount Plus. Okay. So, it's obviously cool. It's a shorter window, I think, than we're used to seeing. And it's obviously a consequence of everything going to VOD or rental or Disney Plus Premier Access, whatever the case may be. And this is kind of their solution, is to chop the usual 90-day, 3-month kind of window between theaters and home release in half. So, for those that are still not comfortable with heading to theaters on May 28th, then that's a way to do it, is pay the $10, whatever it is, for Paramount Plus and watch it that way in July. So for those looking forward to A Quiet Place Part 2, that's an alternative option. So I'm looking forward to it. I am already fully vaccinated, so I will probably just go see it in May. I feel like I'll be doing that. And you'll certainly be eligible by then to at least have your first shot. And again, your antibodies are hopefully still doing you wonders. But maybe we'll catch Quiet Place Part 2.
If there were compelling, I'll put it this way: if there were compelling reasons for me to go to a movie theater right now,
you'd do it.
I'd probably go to a movie theater right now.
Well, and that's the thing is, there's not a whole lot.
There's not a compelling. I mean, about everything that's.
I would go see Godzilla vs. Kong if it wasn't on HBO Max, and I couldn't just watch it at home with the subscription thing that I already pay for. So
bingo. So Godzilla. I'd like that to be my first IMAX movie back. But at the same time, I don't think that it will be a good enough movie to warrant driving out and making it inconvenient. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll do that with Top Gun.
Yeah.
Or Dune.
Yeah.
But as much as I am eager to watch Godzilla, which I am, I don't know if it's...
You can watch it at home.
I can watch it for free.
The convenience of your own home
for free.
where it's it's effective.
It's not free, but... yeah, exactly.
You already paid for it. It's just it's free content that's added to a thing you already pay for. You're not paying for Godzilla versus Kong specifically, so I get the sentiment. Quiet Place 2 moving up, and then last but not least, Disney is changing lots of things.
Disney's on the
move. Perhaps for the last time. We'll see. Black Widow has been moved again. I think that's probably the biggest one up top. Black Widow has been moved from May 7th to July 9th, so a couple-month delay there, and it will be offered in theaters as well as on Disney Plus Premier Access with the $30 fee. So the same model that we saw with Mulan, same model we saw with Raya and The Last Dragon will be applied to Black Widow. So... fair enough. Obviously it gives more people time to get vaccinated, as I've now said probably too many times. Am I encouraging people to get their vaccines? Yes, I am. That's what I'm doing. But the Premier Access thing is obviously a big deal. This is one for me. I'll see this in the theater. Hell, if I like it so much that I see it in IMAX once, I still might turn around and buy it on Premier Access so I can watch it 15 times at home. You know what I mean? Like, instead of... I feel like most Marvel movies I end up seeing multiple times in theaters, so that almost feels like a more viable model for me. But it's obviously contingent upon whether I like it enough to do that. But yeah, that's cool. I think it's smart. Somewhat hedging their bets. Obviously, the hope is that theaters are up and running and back to normal, but realistically, they're not going to be the same, at least not for a good while. So why not offer, a way to see it, where, clearly they've had enough success that they went back to the Mulan model for Raya, and they're generating enough revenue from it to keep doing it, is my guess. So I guess it's kind of a why not scenario. Cruella, everyone's favorite Joker knockoff, Cruella is also coming to Disney Plus Premier Access in addition to its theatrical release, staying as scheduled for May 28th. So another late May one. It might even be the same date as A Quiet Place. I can't remember at this point. Maybe a few days apart. But that one's going to be both the hybrid release, theaters, and Premier Access. So there's that. I think maybe the other big bombshell from this is that Pixar's Luca, which we talked about the trailer for, it's the one with the mermaid people, the Shape of Water kids. That is getting the sole release model of going straight to Disney Plus at no extra cost on June 18th. So just fabulous. A full straight drop on Disney Plus for Pixar's latest, which is a pretty big deal. And again, I'm going to guess that that's based on the fact that Soul did very well for them around Christmas time, and obviously it was very good. Perhaps they're expecting, another critically acclaimed film here to drop on the service, so they can, say, hey, come check this out. Disney Plus, you can get that. You can pay for Black Widow in a little while. At that point, they'll probably have Raya and the Last Dragon out basically as part of the service. So lots of value there, in addition to WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and such. So there's that. So that's very exciting. I think that's a cool move. And then beyond that, as a result of Black Widow moving, it actually took over Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings date. And so Shang-Chi has been moved to September 3rd, which means that, assuming everything holds, we'll be getting 4 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies in the second half of 2021. So we're getting Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man No Way Home, plus all the Disney Plus shows. So it's going to be jam-packed full of shit, which is great, obviously. And then last but not least, the 20th Century movies have also been moved under Disney at this point. So Free Guy moves to August 13th, my birthday. A little Ryan Reynolds goodness on my birthday. Thank you very much. The King's Man, delayed again. It really is the new Mutants at this point. Moved to December 22nd, so it's basically a Christmas release for that now. Deep Water, starring Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, has been moved to January 14th of 2022. No word yet if the cardboard cutout will make an appearance in the film or not, but we're certainly hopeful.
Coming out of Justice League, all I see is Batman walking out of the car.
And last but not least, Death on the Nile has been punted all the way to February 11th of 2022, which is probably to avoid Armie Hammer's current ongoing legal status, which, we called him everyone's favorite cannibal, and turns out he might be a rapist as well. So there's that little nugget for you. Probably good on Disney to steer clear of that for a while and see what happens with that. And apparently they're not thinking about pulling a Kevin Spacey, all the money in the world, Christopher Plummer situation, but I have to bet that someone in a back room somewhere has considered it at this point. So anyway, we won't be seeing that for nearly a year. So that's what's going on the Disney front. That's all the release date shenanigans. Any thoughts on that? You looking forward to all those? Cruella especially?
Looking forward to, especially Cruella. No. Yeah. I've really, I picked a good time to buy a new TV and a sound system. So
yeah.
Usually my timing's really off with purchases and stuff. And just like I said, I picked a real good time to invest. And so I've really leaned into the, I don't have to go to the theater thing, which is pretty, it's pretty good. I enjoy my experience at home. I can pause and go to the bathroom, and I can drink my beer and stuff, and don't have to go anywhere. And
yeah, well, it might be a little spoiled. Like it's gonna be weird, going to see a movie in a theater. I feel like it's gonna, like I am wondering. It's
the first time there's like a kid behind me, I'm just gonna want to fucking throw my shoe at him. You know what I mean? It's like, shut the fuck up.
Well, I think that's a separate issue. Is that, you've been talking to people probably all along, so maybe you'll be better than most. But for me, I'm just meaning like I've been hanging out with Anna for like pretty much the entire past year. I haven't really talked to anyone else in person, so I'm expecting to be very socially awkward when I'm just like, oh, hey, how do we do this thing? Like, what do we talk about? Like, how does this work? It's kind of how I'm expecting that to work.
Can I get a popcorn?
Yeah, so like popcorn. It's gonna be interesting. But I'm wondering if seeing something in IMAX going from exclusively watching things on a 55-inch TV Max to an IMAX screen is gonna feel like I time traveled into the future or something like that.
Right, it's true. IMAX will be a big deal. Even a regular movie screen will probably be a big deal.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's bigger than 55 inches, so
yeah,
it'll be a stark difference. But I'm just wondering. I distinctly remember. For those that don't know, I was still am in the Coast Guard, but I was active duty in the Coast Guard for 4 years. And boot camp, you don't have access to your phone. But then week 7 comes along, and as long as you've done everything right, and you're good, you're on schedule to graduate when you can. You get phone access for like a Saturday, and I got to tell you that touchscreen blew my mind. Not having used the touchscreen for like I guess to that point nearly 2 months, it was I felt like a caveman, with this sort of technology. I was just like, I'm not supposed to have this. This isn't correct. And so that's what I'm wondering is if I see a movie in theaters after a full year plus of not stepping foot in one, and when the last time that I saw something was Bloodshot of all things, if it's just gonna, is my brain gonna break? Is what I'm wondering. So stay tuned on that front. And what I will say, this isn't actually news. It's sort of news, but Scott Pilgrim versus the World is getting a re-release in Dolby Cinema.
Nice.
It's like the last weekend of April, and I'm like, that might be the one. That might be the one that takes me there. So stay tuned.
I might sincerely hold out until Dune.
Yeah,
Dune and IMAX.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, with the limited exceptions of your F9s and such, you can probably get away with it. So
we'll see.
We'll see. All right, moving on to the trailer corner, the second phase of the news. I got 3 trailers to talk about. The first of them is something called Without Remorse. It's a film Amazon acquired, coming out April, someday in April. It's coming out someday in April. I'll find out for everyone eventually, but this is a Tom Clancy thriller film starring Michael B. Jordan, directed by Stefano Sollima, who directed Sicario, Day of the Soldado, and it's written by Taylor Sheridan of Wind River and Hell or High Water fame.
Nice.
So and Sicario, and the first Sicario. What'd you think? Good stuff?
I thought it looked pretty. I thought it looked pretty badass.
Okay.
I like that sequence where he pulls the guy from the water.
Yeah.
Pulls the guy into the water and shoots the other guy from the pool.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. It looks like he gets crazy with a knife or something, which looks pretty cool. Michael B. Jordan's pretty cool dude. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty standard revenge thriller kind of vibes to it.
Yeah, totally.
But Michael B. Jordan's very charming, and I think he's going to be good in this. I think at the end of the trailer it just says rated R for violence, nothing else. So I'm just assuming this is going to be a bloody affair. I mean, I think it could be a tight, sort of action thriller. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It seems cool. It is technically a spinoff of the Jack Ryan film series. I don't think it's related to any specific incarnation of it, but the character itself, I think, was originated in the Tom Clancy Jack Ryan novels. So there is that little connection there, too. So Without Remorse is coming April of stay tuned, wait for it. April 30th. You heard it here first.
April someday.
April 30th. So the end of April, you'll have this on Amazon Prime Video to look forward to. Next trailer is something you'll be looking forward to on HBO Max and theaters, June 18th. And that is In the Heights, which is technically a project that Lin-Manuel Miranda completed as a musical, and in its musical form, before he went on to do Hamilton, which we liked pretty well. This is a film adaptation, a full-on film adaptation, not just a filmed stage play or anything like that, but a very colorful, vibrant, bright musical film, clearly with lots of songs and stuff in it, and you probably recognized a few actors from Hamilton as well. What'd you think about the trailer here, In the Heights?
I got teary-eyed in the trailer. I think it's going to be a really good movie.
It's a very good trailer. It's just very well put together.
It's very good, right? Okay. I'm glad.
You probably get like 10-second segments from the songs, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to love this shit. Like, you can already tell. And obviously, you can tell, I think, that it's Lin-Manuel Miranda's, kind of stamp on it. Like, it does feel like the rhythm and everything like there. It's obviously not the same as Hamilton. It's different. It's obviously different. But the riffs seem the same. It's still him. The flow feels familiar, and obviously, it doesn't hurt when you have like Anthony Ramos. Obviously, he's the main character here, who was, a principal character in Hamilton as well. Lin-Manuel Miranda can be spotted in this trailer as well, and singing at one point. So he's going to get in there and drop some bars. But I liked it.
Yeah, it looks excellent. I'm real excited about it.
I don't know. The trailer, it did. I don't know if it didn't bring me to tears or anything like that, but it just, it kind of fills you with like a swell of emotion or something like that. Like, you can just tell this is just going to hit. It's just going to hit hard. And so I'm very excited about it. And I think the choreography looks cool. They're getting weird and trippy with the visuals, like running up the building and shit. I don't know. It seems like they're embracing the fact that, there's limitations for what you can do in a stage musical. You don't have those limitations when you're making a film. You can expand on the creativity in really weird and interesting and visually exciting ways, and that seems like kind of what they're doing with this. So June 18th is when this comes around, and it's one I think we'll cover and watch on HBO Max probably. Any other thoughts in the Heights?
No, looks incredible. I'm real pumped up about it.
All right, well, we're looking forward to it.
I expect one musical from him every year.
I think. Yeah, I mean, he's.
I expect it. I expect him to set the mood of the year every year.
I don't know if he's going to stay on pace for that, but if he can manage,
my life needs it. Okay, it has to happen.
Yeah. Well, he's working on the animated musical, which I think is also set for this year, the Encanto. So maybe that'll get pushed into 2022, and we'll be fine, and then we'll have the 3 straight years covered at least. But we'll see. Last trailer for the Trailer Corner is for an upcoming Netflix film. starring Idris Elba and Caleb McLaughlin, set in North Philadelphia, which I live in South Philadelphia, for the record.
North Philadelphia, born and raised. Blah, 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 blah. That's where Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's from.
Yeah. Concrete Cowboy, coming to Netflix April 2nd. What did you think?
This one actually brought me to a tear.
This one did. Okay.
This one did. I think this is going to be an incredibly powerful movie. I am very, very excited about this movie.
I feel like it's weird because it just seems like Netflix, they either drop something that is like super powerful, like award-winning, or like, just anchored by like great performances, or they drop just like the schlockiest bullshit. And there's like almost no in between.
They buy everything.
There's just no in between there. And so this obviously seems like it's going to the former category, which is good, more the Ma Rainey, Mank, Roma kind of territory, and then there are a few review blurbs in the trailer that seem to indicate this is going to be a good one. But it looks
and he
good.
played in Idris Elba played in Monsters and Men or something like that. It was another really good Netflix movie about children soldiers.
Yes,
that was an incredible movie too.
Beasts of No Nation.
That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome movie, Netflix. Highly recommend it. But this here looks like a really touching story. It's a father-son kind of like growing of age kind of movie, you know what I mean? And I don't know, it just seems like a really, really good movie.
Yeah. It's going to be very heartfelt, I think.
Yes.
For the record, I've lived in Philadelphia for 3 years now. As I said, I live in South Philadelphia, not North Philadelphia, and I had no clue about any of the urban cowboy subculture that we see here. And I'm glad that Netflix made it a point to say that you never knew this existed. I'm like, yes, that's correct. I did not. So yes, I appreciate that.
Right.
It looks good. April 2nd on Netflix. Perhaps we shall check it out. That's good Lord. That's not that far away.
It's really cool. Yeah.
We're almost in April. So, anyway. All right. Last but not least, we move on to our third phase of news, which is the awards junket side of things. The Golden Globes happened. The 2021 Golden Globes happened. We know who won everything. And then we're going to talk about the Oscar nominations, which came out after the fact. So in terms of the Golden Globes covers both television and film. On the TV side of the house, The Crown cleaned up and Queen's Gambit cleaned up, I think, overall. Though they both did very, very well. In terms of specific award winners, Josh O'Connor won for The Crown. Anya Taylor-Joy won for The Queen's Gambit. Schitt's Creek did very well. Jason Sudeikis won for Ted Lasso. Emma Corrin won for The Crown. Yeah, The Crown just did really well. I should watch that sometime. Anna keeps goading me into saying that I need to watch it. I'm like, yeah, I think I probably would enjoy it. I mostly watched the Meghan Markle interview with Oprah, which I don't know if that was in your purview or anything like that. I don't know if that's anything that you were paying attention to as it happened, but
no, I don't know anything about it.
Some spicy allegations that the royal family are a bunch of racist fucks, old racist fucks, which is probably not all that shocking information.
Is that hard to,
but
is that a hard thing to grapple with? I mean, do we not?
I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I mean, everyone could have guessed that, but this is probably the first time that anyone's actually coming out and saying the thing. So yeah. Anyway, I should watch The Crown sometime. Is basically how is what I'm getting at. In terms of other TV stuff, I think that's really it for the TV stuff as far as I'm aware. Crown won the best drama. I think Queen's Gambit won like limited series because it's technically a limited series. So pretty expected on all fronts. Now, the film side, I think we had a few surprise wins. I mean, I think overall it was nothing too outlandish. But Nomadland won Best Motion Picture for drama. And Andrew's nodding at me, so maybe he thinks it's deserved. That was over the likes of The Father, Mank, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. So, a lot of films in there that we talked about on our 2020 episode. Surprise when Andra Day won for Best Actress with United States versus Billie Holiday. Sacha Baron Cohen won for his performance as Borat and Borat's subsequent movie film.
When I read that, I didn't read Best Actor in Motion Picture. I just read Best.
You just assumed it was for trial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I saw Borat. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was musical or comedy.
Yeah, that's how the Golden Globes does it, is they split it between drama and musical or comedy. Here's what's crazy, is like Best Motion Picture, musical or comedy, Borat also won for that, but it was up against Hamilton, and then like come on. You know what I mean? Like, one of these is definitely better than the other. And I liked Borat too, to be fair, but just kind of one of those things. Chloe Zhao won as Best Director for Nomadland. Chadwick Boseman won for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom as Best Actor. What else? Minari won Best Motion Picture Foreign Language. It's kind of a weird thing that it wasn't nominated for Best Motion Picture Drama. There's some sort of weird language requirement bullshit when it's fully an American film, and I they do speak a lot of Korean in the film because they are a Korean family that lives in America, but it's an American film, so it's kind of a weird bullshit thing that I kind of got relegated to this category, but it did win, so there is that. And then outside of that, Soul won for Best Score. 9 Inch Nails and John Batiste went in for score. Aaron Sorkin's screenplay. Soul won for Best Animated Feature. And then kind of a weird one. Daniel Kaluuya won for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. He's who beat Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial for his role as Fred Hampton in Judas and the Black Messiah, which I would argue is a lead role. So I'm not sure why he's considered a supporting role there, but whatever. It is what it is. It's a weird sort of movie where they have two supporting roles in the sense that both he and Lakeith were basically leads, so I guess you can't classify both as leads for some reason, so by default they're both supporting actors. Whatever, some real dumb shit. But anyway, Golden Globes did okay this year. Nothing too outlandish in there, which is good. And then the Oscar nominations. So everything is super delayed. The Golden Globes happen later than they usually do. The Oscars are happening way later than they usually do. They're going to be airing April 25th, so they're still a month away from when we're recording. But we did finally get the nominations. And I think a lot of them are pretty expected, pretty good stuff. Riz Ahmed, Chadwick Boseman, Gary Oldman, and Stephen Yeun all nominated for Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role. Both Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield were nominated for Actor in a Supporting Role, along with Sacha Baron Cohen. Beyond that, Soul is nominated for Best Animated Feature. I don't need to go through the whole list.
Frances McDermott in Nomadland.
She was nominated for Best Actress, correct? Along with Viola Davis and Ma Rainey, Carey Mulligan and Promising Young Women. Yeah, Nomadland got a there's a lot of Nomadland and Minari nominations, I think, on the whole. So Nomadland was nominated for cinematography. Directing, Nomadland and Minari were both nominated. So Lee Isaac Chung and Chloe Zhao were both nominated for that. Nomadland got an editing nomination. Minari got a score nomination. And let's see, anything else noteworthy before I get to the obvious Best Picture? Nomadland adapted screenplay. Minari original screenplay. So anyway, lots of nominations for the two films we're about to talk about is my point. And so Best Motion Picture of the Year, they've expanded the pool so it's more than just the usual 5. It looks like there's 8 films that were nominated for Best Picture of the Year. So you got The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. So really, I think a pretty strong bunch. The Father is, I think, the only one there that I have not seen as of now, recording this. So it's a strong pool of candidates all around. So it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. One important nugget. I can't forget this. Eurovision Song Contest is nominated for Best Original Song with Husavik, which I think is the song that Rachel McAdams does at the end, if I'm not mistaken. So Oscar-nominated film, Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga.
And Hamilton's nowhere in any of them, huh?
Yeah, there's these weird qualifiers. So Hamilton, I don't think qualified, just in the way that I think we kind of relegated it to the sidelines. It gets punted off to the side. And then like all the small act stuff, like Mangrove, which I raved about, is not, like, it's considered like a TV show, so it's kind of just off to the sidelines, which is kind of bullshit because they're fucking movies in that thing. So anyway, one last thing. Performance by actress in a supporting role, Yoo Jung-yoon was nominated. She's the grandma in Minari. She was nominated. So we'll talk about her. And right now, you want to talk about Minari right now?
I can talk about Minari right now.
Right now? All right, let's do it. Minari. Right now, I think available still only on video on demand. So Andrew and I shared a $20 48-hour rental to watch it. But maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's one we'll buy later on. Maybe we'll find out. It is written and directed by Lee Isaac Chung. You heard a little bit about him at the top of the episode. It stars Stephen Yoon, Han Ye-ri, Alan Kim, Noel Kate Cho, Yeon Yu Jung, and Will Patton. It is about a family of South Korean immigrants who try to make it in rural America during the 1980s. And that takes us to a little non-spoiler conversation about Minari. Bear in mind, for both Andrew and myself, that aforementioned rental happened probably 2 weeks ago, maybe even longer. So it's been a minute since we have seen Minari, but I would argue it's a film that sticks with you.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that assessment? How did you feel about Minari?
Man, I was so pumped about Minari since I saw the trailer.
First trailer that brought you to tears, something like that?
Yeah. Absolutely incredible trailer and even better movie. The simplistic nature of the story. So the first thing is this has to be one of the most American movies I've ever seen.
Right, which is why I, say the Golden Globe thing of like limiting it to only foreign language film. Like, this is an American fucking movie through and through. It's about the American dream told from the perspective of a family trying to live the American dream. Immigrants to America from, their home country in search of that, American dream. So, and it's about the American experience as told through that lens. So yeah, I mean it's an American fucking movie.
It's the most American movie, man. Like it, all the ideals that we put up and everything that, your quote unquote America, this makes not all the moments, but it makes me proud to be an American. You know what I mean? Like the journey that the family goes on was available in America. You know what I mean? The American dream, like you say, and that in and of itself is incredible in its own right. But the story is told really simplistic, but the poetic structure of the story, particularly like one moment at the end, I thought the characters and how they were involved in the plot, and how, just what every character stood for, I thought was poetic in nature. I thought it was really good. The cinematography is awesome. The acting is superb. Like they're just believable fucking people. Everybody on screen, every moment is incredibly believable. And it just feels like an authentic, it feels like a, semi-autobiographical, what? I can't talk.
Semi-autobiographical? Is that what we're looking for?
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
We'll pretend
it feels like life, man. And it's heart-wrenching at moments. It's incredibly uplifting in other moments.
Also,
The camaraderie between Will Patton and Stephen Yeun is really cool. And I just think it's I adore this movie. I think it's incredible on all fronts.
It's just a beautiful film, really, in all of its aspects. And even though it has been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long it's been since Anna and I watched it, this is a film that's really stuck with me. And I think that's due to its authenticity and its beauty. I think overall, you say, your fun fact at the beginning of the episode about, this being that semi-autobiographical take from Lee Isaac Chung. And I think I said something to the effect of you feel it in the movie. And that's because even though these characters are obviously not one-to-one representations of his family or him specifically, or maybe even anyone that he knew, you can tell that the circumstances, the moments and stuff all feel kind of inspired by something that only someone could have lived through. I can't remember exactly where I talked about it. It was on a recent episode somewhere at some point. I think it was the Judas episode, now that I think about it. Sometimes, you can be as creative as you want and writing things, and but the most powerful things can be the true things, the true to life things, and even if this isn't explicitly based on a true story, quote unquote, type of film, it is in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's blurring the lines, and I think Nomadland does it as well. Blurring the lines where you have these fictional characters, but they're in a setting that's, for all intents and purposes, could have been anyone, in this situation. It could have been just plucked out of history, more or less, and that sells the emotionality and really everything that powers the film. And so, having this simplistically told story, from beat to beat, you're kind of just living with this family for a couple hours, which is obviously not literally a couple hours. And in their case, it's, over the span of some time as Jacob, who is Stephen Yeun's character, is basically trying to develop this farm, and provide for his family, and his family is kind of, coping with, they're coping with adjustments that come from being in a very familiar place in South Korea and then moving, packing shop, and raising 2 young children in somewhat unfamiliar territory in rural America, of all places. You know what I mean? So it's a hard shift, I think, for that family, and even I think coming from California more immediately. I think within the story, I think they moved from California to Arkansas. It's not really a spoiler; it's basically the beginning. That just the way that the story unfolds is just really, really impactful, because you get little bits of information and you're expecting certain things to kind of pop up later on, and they do sometimes in unexpected ways, and really like tender, heartfelt ways. And then there are things that happen that are just emotionally, they're emotional wrecking balls, I guess is what I'll say, where, you just feel it. And so, by the end, when you go through the journey with all these people, it's just that. It's a journey, really, and you feel it in your bones. We'll talk more about that, specifically in spoilers, but I think the reason that all works is because it all feels very relatable, it feels very authentic, and it's brought to life, I think, and the best way possible, through a very, very talented cast. Stephen Yeun is great. I like Stephen Yeun, obviously. Walking Dead is most people's exposure to Stephen Yeun, and people fucking love Glenn. You know what I mean? Like, he was a fan favorite on that show. I think there's a lot of people that bailed on that show when Stephen Yeun left the show, if you want to put it that way. But a lot of these actors here, I think we've seen Will Patton in a thing or two. I definitely got some bad vibes from his character, but all in all, he put in a very good performance. But I think the family unit particularly was just really, really incredible. His wife was very good. Someone who is clearly struggling with the situation. Alan Kim, who plays his son David, is the cutest kid on earth, I'm pretty sure. And really good. I mean, really good. child performances are difficult, and he was adorable from minute one of the film, and someone that was really fun, and even when he's been mischievous and doing some fucked up little things because he's a little kid doing fucked up little things, he's still very adorable, and it feels like a kid, he feels authentically like a kid. And his sister is good too. She's a little older and more like, shit, I have to be a parent sometimes for my, for my little brother. But I don't know, all of it just felt very, very good. And then the grandma, obviously, talked about Yeon Yu-jung. She's been nominated for an Oscar for her performance in a supporting role, and she was really, really great. A great presence, and someone that adds a lot of flair to kind of the movie, and I think she's a huge part of the plot in terms of how the plot develops. I think she's kind of maybe the crux of that, and I think that the way her character evolves throughout the film, she portrays that very wonderfully. But I think the thing that I think about, and I think I think you can even see it almost in like the poster for this film, is just the lush grass, that bright green, and the cinematography brings that all to life. As seeing this farm and seeing this kind of depiction of rural America, it's just really beautiful. And the hope and dream of what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
the hope and the dream, and actually seeing it too. I think literally seeing it with your own two eyes, and just seeing how it's shot in this film, like. It's the type of film that, I'm like, I'm ready to jump into the TV, man, and live in it, man. So,
visual poetry.
Yeah.
Just like Baraka.
Just like Baraka, which I still haven't seen for the record, but I'll watch it at some point.
This could be a silent movie, and you would get everything you ever needed from it. Solely based off of the cinematography.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Absolutely not beautiful movie.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a generally speaking bright movie, a little rainy at times, I guess, but for the most part, just that the sun beaming down on this farm and all this land. I don't know, and it's a big point, obviously, in the movie. Like, look at all this land that we have, compared to the 3 square feet that we had, and such and such, and so that's obviously kind of the appeal for Steven Yeun's character, but. I think the film itself makes you understand the appeal and makes you understand, like, wow, that is nice. Like, that's just a really, really compelling place to just look at. And, obviously people want a mall and, and lots of things nearby and lots of amenities and stuff like that. But, sometimes the simple life is pretty alluring, pretty appealing. This is obviously still a different tier of simple living compared to what we see in Nomadland. What we'll talk about in Nomadland, that's that kind of taken to the nth degree, perhaps. But I was really struck by Minari. I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful film. Glad we finally got an opportunity to see it. It just worked for me. I think it's just a very, very compelling movie. I really have no complaints on it. Maybe one slightly minor thing. I think it kind of ends a little abruptly, but that's fine. I wasn't bothered by it, I guess is what I would say about it. Like, it really kind of felt like there's a lot of things that develop, things that happen that we'll talk about in spoilers, and then, you don't really see too much of the fallout of it, but you see enough, I think, to get a good picture
Sarah
of
said the same thing.
Where things go. But I don't know.
Sarah said the same thing. We'll talk about it in spoilers, the ending of the movie.
Yeah.
It left me, the ending of the movie left me very satisfied.
I think so too. I think particularly kind of the final note of the film, I think, left me satisfied. It felt like a very good way of wrapping up the film, but we'll get into it. We'll have to dance around it for 5 minutes and then revisit it. We'll just get to it in a little while. But I don't really have anything else as far as non-spoilers. So, do you, or do you want to get into recommendation?
No, we can just hop right into recommendations and spoilers.
All right, so recommendation will probably be a brief stop here. 5-tiered scale, very yes, totally fine, shithouse. Consensus pick here, you think?
I think so. It's a very yes movie for me.
Yes.
I can't think of a more beautiful movie that's a simple story, yet poetic in nature, that's well acted, well shot. The score was nice. I mean, it was just an all around very pleasant movie to watch. It's not pleasant at all times. There's a lot. There's some drama. There's some drama from time to time. There is some drama from time to time, like there is in every family. You know what I mean? And it really just encapsulates everything that it is to be a struggling American family, and an immigrant, an immigrant struggling family, with dreams and hopes and the whole 9 yards. It's fucking perfect. I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything better to say than that. Yeah. High praises. Very, very yes. Very, very yes. I say very, very yes. So I had 2 more veries.
Well, I'll co-sign however many varies were in front of that. Yes, I think they all belong there. It's a really, really powerful, emotionally resonant film, and one I think maybe even more so. I do think more so compared to Nomadland. I feel like it's probably more of a wide appeal. Lots of subtitles, and that bothers people. So you have to get over that, obviously. But I do think that I think
it's an important movie.
It's an important movie, and I think it's a relatable story.
Yeah.
I think it's very relatable. This is a country of immigrants, and obviously the period of 2016 to 2020 is probably not really reflective of that mentality of a country founded by immigrants and built on the backs of immigrants and such. But I do think that we like to think of America as a big cultural melting pot, and that encompasses South Korean immigrants, and I think that this is somewhat of a drop in the bucket in terms of just one family in this massive country like rural Arkansas is very different than North Philadelphia, where they've got fucking horses in the city and shit. But it's still an important story. It's one that I think that people, even if they can't have personally related to it, they'll still relate to it. You don't need to have the shared experience to understand it, to relate to it. And again, I think that's another point that's probably more important for Nomadland. Here, it's a nuclear family trying to grow up together. That's a lot of people go through that. That's even if you don't have the specific touchstones for something like this, you still understand what it's going for. And if you don't, you can understand it from the way that it's told, in the sense that you have a writer and director in Lee Isaac Chung who clearly knows this. This is this is how things were for him growing up, and you feel that you have that sort of touch in the way that the film is made, so that you understand that, even if you don't have that shared experience. So anyway, very, very, very. Yes, on Minari. I might have added an extra very, so whatever, it's fine with me. Highly recommend it. Definitely something that I will pick up. It feels like a future Criterion kind of movie.
For
hell,
sure.
if they put out a 4K of it, it's such a beautiful film. I would love to do that as well. So happy to have had the opportunity to rent it for that 48-hour period or whatever. Happy to write off the back of you renting it for that 48-hour period more accurately. But it's one that will be added to my collection later this year for sure. So let's do spoilers, full spoilers for Minari.
So
what do you got?
The fascinating thing I thought is you have a second generation immigrant in this family who doesn't know anything about Korea, which is the little boy.
Right. Yeah.
And you have different levels of appreciation for what it is to be Korean. And he is totally disconnected and just wholeheartedly wants to be American, right? When his grandma first comes down, she smells like Korea or
Smells
whatever.
like you, right.
And the sister says, "You don't even know what Korea smells like," And over the course of the movie, the relationship and the bonds between, a full-fledged Korean woman who doesn't speak, she speaks super broken English. She calls his pee-pee broken or something like that. So funny. In the middle of church, I think. Yeah.
He can't hang out with you. His pee-pee is broken.
But he goes from peeing in her fucking in her pot,
bowl, cup, whatever it was.
Yeah, to chasing her down the street after she had a stroke.
Right.
I kind of get teary-eyed thinking about it a little bit. And throughout the movie, his farm had ups and downs, and he had to find the water, and he had to struggle to find the water, and this and that, and blah 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 blah. And I thought it was super poetic. And he wanted to grow like corn and like American foods, but the thing that getting fucking, I don't know, this movie hit me hard. The thing that took off the most was the thing that was brought across the ocean.
The Minari seeds.
Right. And the thing that the grandma actually cultivated.
Right.
And at the end of the movie, after he loses his farm, because of the fire, loses the his stocks, I guess, or whatever it's called. After he loses his crop, the thing he's left with harvesting is the Minari. And I thought it was perfect. I thought it was excellent. Because it's been in a way, I want to depart from what I came from, and I want to adapt to what I'm in. You know what I mean? Without taking a lot of that heritage that he had, and then at the end of the movie, he's left with cultivate the best thing that grew in his field, or not in his field. I mean, the best thing that grew on his land was the thing that came from his homeland, which I thought it was super poetic and awesome. The ending actually touched me in a big way. Really like the ending.
I think so too. Yeah, I think the final note, particularly of him, of Stephen Yeun's character taking his son out to harvest the Minari after everything that had kind of come before it. This is a good spot, and just seeing how well it had kind of taken off and grown was really touching. So I agree with that. I think the only point I was really trying to make in terms of the abruptness was that the fire itself happens very, very late in it, and really there's not a whole lot after that. You pretty much get, I think, a scene or two of them kind of like sleeping on the floor together, kind of as a family unit, which was very good. It was a
back
very good
to square
scene.
one, essentially.
Right.
They started the movie off sleeping on the floor, and then now they're sleeping on the floor again.
Right. That, and and then it kind of transitions into that scene. So you don't really get a whole lot of follow up on like the relationships in terms of where everyone is at with each other, because there's a huge part of it obviously is that Jacob and his wife, Jacob and Monica, are very much drifting apart based on where they want their where their priorities lie. Jacob is 100% out on the farm. Monica is 100% in on the family, and obviously it's not that Jacob isn't in on the family, but he
just wants to succeed.
He wants the farm to succeed so that he can take care of the family, and Monica is like, maybe it's a lack of confidence, whatever the case may be. It's just like, we don't need the farm. We need each other. That's more important. It's not a question of whether the farm succeeds and takes off or not. And so that really leads them to a huge impasse. And then everything goes up in flames. And then, yes, as you said, you go back to square one. And so I think you also kind of see even her just kind of sprinting in to help, like try to clear the stock. And obviously it's unsuccessful, but she sees how much it means to him. Like, she doesn't dispute that, but she clearly has her own kind of ideas, and it's just really touching, obviously, that these are two people that are at very, very realistic but different points kind of in their lives together, and
it's one of those things. I think it's one of those age-old tales where, like, once it's all stripped away, you kind of know what you have. Does that make sense? So like once he realizes that my shit perished in the fire, I'm back to square one. but I still got my family, you know?
Right.
And it was, goddamn, it was a good movie.
Yeah. It's potent. It's potent stuff. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, and the you know, the kid in the church asking why his face is flat.
Oh. Also the girl coming up to the sister and, you know, let me, you know, stop me when I say something in your language, and then she just, you know, does the whole like, oh God, you know, I won't repeat it.
There's no, you know, it talks about, you know, the exposure of different people and when what it is to be a minority. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That little kid's never seen any. I mean, yeah, it was a really shitty thing to say, and the little girl was a real shitty thing to do. You know, it begs the question of how many other people were they exposed to in that area, and they don't know how to interact with other people that are different, and they don't know what's offensive.
Those kids have probably seen nothing but white people in their entire lives.
Exactly.
So, you know, that's faults of their parents. I'm not going to blame little kids for being, you know.
No. And it turned out that the little kid turned out they seemed to be friends.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's giving them some chewing tobacco and stuff, and you know, and his dad didn't seem to be a great influence on the kid, but yeah, you know.
It also talked about you know, spirituality in the U.S. I'm gonna carry
the fucking exorcism.
Well, you have that, and then you've got, you know, you have
the cross.
Sunday.
He's carrying the cross.
This is my cross, you know. But Will Patton was a fucking excellent neighbor.
He turned out to be. I had suspicions that he had murdered the previous tenant of that land because he was giving me some strong serial killer vibes. I didn't really think this is the direction the movie was going, but I thought there would be some seediness with his character, but I think he was just a very, very devout man who, you know, I think was devoted as well, not only to his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but to
his fellow man,
to the farm. And I think he really did want it to succeed, and I think he did believe in Jacob and was very supportive of him. And yeah, you know, and so despite my suspicions of him, I do think he turned out to be a pretty good guy, a good neighbor, as he said. Who supported him and wanted him to succeed.
It's almost like a mirror of the kids. The kids, you know, they come over here and there's this crazy Christian guy carrying a cross, wants to pray every time he, you know, I want to hug you, I want to, you know, do this and do that. And it's totally fucking different, you know, and they're kind of, you know, it's, they just kind of keep him with a 10-foot pole, you know, because they're unsure about him because he's so different, you know. It's, right. Man, it's just a really fucking good movie. Everybody needs to watch this movie. That's all I got to say about it.
It's very good. It's very good.
And Jake and the little boy's heart.
Yeah, I think that's really the last thing that I was going to hit on was, you know, they don't let him run because he's got this heart condition, and so to me, that's the ticking time bomb of the film is what's going to happen to this fucking kid. Like, I'm going to lose it if something happens to this guy. I'm going to fucking lose it. Is how I felt about this film.
But he turned out to get stronger while Grandma got...
And plot twist, you know, Grandma's the one who suffers the stroke. I mean, go figure, it's the older person that obviously has the medical problems, but, you know...
The little boy never had the confidence. You don't
see it coming, you know? It still catches you off guard when Grandma suffers the stroke and you know, and I thought she was dead initially, you know, when they kind of go to look at her, and it turns out she has a stroke. But you know, to kind of have that expectation subverted of thinking something's going to happen to this kid and I'm going to lose it, to oh shit, something did happen, but it wasn't to the kid and I'm still going to lose it. Was really really touching and powerful, and I think true to life of, you know, things. Sometimes things turn out better than you hope for. You know, the kid's heart, you know, was kind of it got better.
The two most combative people got the closest.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and, no, they grew together.
And the little boy, his whole family treated him like a delicate little thing because he had a heart condition.
Don't run, David. You know, that sort of thing. And,
yeah, and Grandma's like, run, let it go, run. You know, you're a strong boy. You're constantly telling him he's a strong boy. You can do it. Blah 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 blah. And I found Grandma and his relationship super heartwarming. I thought it was awesome.
It was very, very heartwarming. And I'm not a doctor, obviously. I'm not a doctor, but I do think that probably a big reason that David's heart grew stronger was because he was drinking lots of mountain water. I think overall that was probably what did it for him.
The Mountain Dew.
That was very funny. It was very funny. Every time I've seen Mountain Dew, I've been calling it mountain water just because I find that it's just a very funny touch. But yes, in all seriousness, them growing together and the relationship between grandma and grandson was really touching. And when he sets off running after her kind of towards the end,
God, I lost it.
She is just totally out of it after the stroke and accidentally starts the fire that brings the farm, crashing to the ground, but he still runs after her as she kind of just abandons the scene, and she's dazed. She doesn't know what's going on. And
nobody wants me here.
For him to just kind of sprint after her was just really, really powerful, very touching moment. So, lots of very powerful, emotional, touching moments in Minari. Really from minute 1 to minute 115, whatever. It's 115 minutes, so maybe the credits aren't as powerful as I'm saying they are, but the whole movie is really, really, really special.
Tour de force, for sure.
Tour de force. I will co-sign the tour de force as well. So yeah, that's what I've got on Minari. Any other final thoughts for you on Minari?
No, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay, well, ordinarily we'd be done, but no, it's time for more. We're going on to another feature film. We're talking about Nomadland. This one's a little bit more accessible, fortunately. It is available on Hulu, which is very nice. On the Hulus. One of the few things that we boot up the Hulus for these days. Written, directed, and as I found out in the closing credits, edited by Chloe Zhao. The trifecta, written, directed, and edited by. That's a fucking
true vision.
That's a true vision right there. Very, very impressive. It's based off of a book, Nomadland, Surviving America in the 21st Century by Jessica Bruder. Stars Frances McDormand, David Strathairn, Linda May, Swanky, singularly credited as Swanky, and Bob Wells. And obviously those latter three you'll recognize as characters in the film as well. Those are the three, among others, I think, that were real-life nomads who basically played fictionalized versions of themselves. So, Nomadland, after losing everything in the Great Recession, a woman embarks on a journey through the American West, living as a van-dwelling modern-day nomad. I think this one might have worked for you too. Am I correct in saying that?
This one, yeah. So Minari worked for me, and it was a very touching movie. But this movie just resonated with me, like at my core. Like my whole body was resonating.
Are you ready to get the van? You ready to?
Yeah, exactly.
You got a van waiting at the car lot, and you're like, oh, I can put this there. I can make this into a little shit bucket. I can get this to pull out, and I'll have a stovetop. You ready to do it?
Ready to do it. No, this is so. Since I was a little kid, my mom used to work at nursing homes before she went to work at preschools, and I don't remember it because it was a long time ago. But my mom always reminds me that I always used to tell her that old people make me sad.
Okay.
And this movie's very dour. There's much like the poster, right? You got a woman carrying a lantern through the fucking desert, pretty much, right? Like there's glimmers of hope and there's glimmers of happiness, but it's encompassed by just desert and just dourness. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think ultimately it's a film really about grief. I think, as we kind of see throughout and an exploration of how grief can inform really everyone's lives and invade it, really, and pervade it, I guess even is probably a better word of putting it. And that's Frances McDormand's character here, is someone who is grief-stricken, but still, going about her life and, moving day to day, proceeding day to day, trying to just live.
The world moves on. The world doesn't stop rotating. With or without you, the world's going to rotate.
Yeah.
And with the characters in this movie, the world is rotating. They're stuck in a world that's rotating. And you have the people that had things and lost things. You have the person that makes $800 a month on Social Security that can't afford anything. You have a world full of loss. You have just it's when you feel forgotten in a world. That's what it feels like, and it tells a very potent story about Frances McDormand just fucking nailed it. We'll just say that. She nailed it. And I really like David Stryth. How do you say his name?
Strathairn.
I thought he was an awesome character. But even Swanky. So Swanky is one of the people traveling around in the caravan. Mm-hmm. And she just is like, my first impression of her is like, God damn, she's just a bitch, but she really grows on you. It's one of those, like, first impressions aren't everything. People are layered like an onion, as Shrek once said.
Shrek, yes.
And that's everybody in this movie, like, why would Frances McDormand not want to live in her house? Why would David not want to be with his family? Why would, just everybody's so nuanced in this movie, and everybody has a reason for why they're doing what they're doing. And it's very deliberate. It's a very beautiful movie. And it's just, to be in Zephyr Hills, like I said, I'm surrounded by people that live this lifestyle, you know what I mean? And it just, when a shitty customer comes up, I learned this lesson a couple years ago, and they come up and they're trying to get their oil changed for free or something, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not because they're shitty. They just, they're trying to do what they need to do, you know what I mean? And so this movie's the first movie I've ever watched that resonated with me in a way that kind of puts everything and people into focus. And it was a profound movie for me. Sarah said it's just a very depressing movie. And she could have gone without watching it. She fell asleep. It was like, yeah. Oh my God. I sat there and I cried in all sorts of parts in this movie. I was just an emotional train wreck watching this thing. It's so beautifully shot.
Yeah.
So incredibly well acted. The story is once again simple, but they're character pieces. Everybody in this movie is a character piece. And the more that the movie goes on, the more you find out about each individual character, and the more nuanced they become, and it's a movie full of life. And it's so good. Such a good movie. If I watch this movie, well, no, we won't talk about it yet. But yeah, I was completely blown away by this. It's a work of art. It's incredible. And in many ways, a very American story. Just American. It's an American story for people that have been pretty much otherwise forgotten, know, and that's the story it tells. It tells the story of forgotten people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a not insignificant number of people who are probably in this position, whether, by choice or not, of living out of a vehicle, living out of a car, living out of a van, finding seasonal, jobs, and scraping by enough money to kind of just function, and live day to day and go about their business and just
finding things
live,
to
do. And
they find
occupy their time
in the caravan,
and find like-minded people and find people similarly situated and bond with them and stuff. Yeah, it feels real. This movie feels real because it is real, and I think it's just I think the way that Chloe Zhao went about making this film is just super interesting and super fascinating to me, of obviously adapting this book, which is a nonfiction book. I think the Frances McDormand character is an invention for the film, kind of not even an audience insert, really, just someone for the audience to follow, really. Is just someone who has been through this sort of, trauma in her life, who is now grief-stricken because of tragedy that has hit her life, and in more ways than one, affecting her family, affecting her livelihood, her occupation, that sort of thing, and affecting her literal, ability to live in a house, and that's what sets her off on this path of being a nomad and kind of traveling America and just, again, living day to day, doing all this stuff. But that, even though that's a fictionalized aspect, I think the way that this movie feels real is because it seamlessly weaves that fiction, that story with fictionalized versions, but probably not that fictionalized versions of real people, and actual real people as depicted by actual real people. Your Lindas, your Bobs, your Swankies. How could I forget about Swanky? These are characters in this movie who don't feel larger than life because they're not. They're real people, and maybe heightened versions, whatever, but they feel real. The performances feel authentic. They feel natural. And I think David Strathairn's character is very good here, but he does very much fit into that fictionalized bubble that you have with Frances McDormand. But I was really taken with, I think, the performances of these real life people, because they felt real, and I think that a lot of that was just them simply channeling their real life experiences into just talking. Obviously it's probably unnatural for people to have a camera in front of their face and to try to act and stuff like that, but it didn't really feel like acting to me. You know what I mean? It really just felt like a lot of times, especially there's a couple times around a campfire and stuff like that, it was just we're just going to focus on this one person for 30 seconds. They're just telling us about their life, and I wouldn't doubt it. That was just, we're going to have these really fancy, nice looking cameras in front of people, and they're just going to tell things. They're going to be doing their things, telling their stories, telling the stories of their lives, and it's going to feel real because that's the story of their life. That's the real story. We didn't write that,
Yeah.
And it hits because of that. And I think that, there's something to be said for this sort of approach that kind of, again, weaves fiction with nonfiction and kind of blends it up and merges it in a way that you don't really see it outright. You know what I mean? It is kind of it is part of the fabric of the film, to tell everyone's story, whether it's Frances McDormand's character's story, or to tell any of these other characters' stories, whether we get them for one scene or two or three.
Because it's the story of the community.
It's the story of the community. It's the story of these people. It's the story of the shared tragedy in some cases, or just the shared, lifestyle and the desire for that lifestyle and the want and I guess really need for that lifestyle for a lot of them. I just found it such an authentic film. And I think that this is a film that is going to be less appealing to I think a mass audience than a Minari is. I think Minari is a pretty traditionally made film. You know what I would say about it? I think it's an exceptionally well made film, but this one to me almost feels like, I don't know, kind of a very, very different approach to filmmaking than I think a lot of people are going to be used to seeing, and I think that's going to throw some people off. I'll have a small additional listener's corner in support of that. But for me, I think that, you could say that this is a slow movie. You can say that this is what's the point, etc. I'm not going to inherently disagree with that, but I do think that it's still striking in spite of all that. I think that I think it maybe for me took some time for me to sink into kind of what the film is trying to do. But I think that once I kind of gave myself to that, and I think once it kind of found more of a little bit of a narrative thrust when, you realize it's just a bit of a slice of life and sometimes bad shit happens, and sometimes you meet new people, and that takes you on different journeys. And what does that mean? And how does that interact with your previous tragedies, your previous traumas, and like how and who you are. I thought the exploration of all that felt very authentic. It felt very real, and I liked kind of how untraditional it was for all of those reasons. The way that it did all of that. I think that is what makes this film stand apart. What makes it feel kind of unique is that I can't say I've seen a film really like it. I don't think so.
No, not that I can think of.
Yeah, it feels, I don't know. Yeah, it feels special, and obviously it's getting a lot of awards recognition, and I think that's because it is kind of a special film. It's not a film that I think Frances McDormand obviously is getting all of the acting attention, but I do think that credit is owed to those people who are just kind of putting their real lives on screen. Sometimes people that aren't actually actors can breathe a lot of life into a film because of how they do it. Granted, there's two sides to the coin. Sometimes you'll get something like this, and another example I can think of is Miracle, actually, the Kurt Russell film, where a lot of the people on that hockey team were just basically people that played hockey in college and high school. I think maybe college more specifically. Like, they needed people that could actually skate on the fucking ice because it was easier to just have actual people that could play hockey, do hockey scenes, and then act when they needed them to act, than it was to have actors learn how to play hockey. That wasn't true for all of them, but there were quite a few that I think were basically only hockey players that then went on to just do like that one movie, and that was basically all they acted in. And they were very good. They felt authentic, they felt good, because it's just like, yeah, they're a hockey player playing a fucking hockey player. Like, they know, the role doesn't demand anything than more than what they already are. And this is true here. Is that, you have these people who are these nomads, and they're being asked to play these nomads. Like, I don't think Swanky, should have been playing Frances McDormand's role or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, that maybe wouldn't have worked so well. But for what they're very specifically asked to do, which is, hey, be yourself and we'll make a movie out of that. Like, I don't know. I think that was just very authentic and very neat and very cool. And I thought they were great and added that level of authenticity to this film that I think it would have not had otherwise. Now, the other side of that coin is if people are bad at acting and they, are trying to act Tommy Wiseau style, aka The Room, then things can get really bad. But fortunately, this is not that. This is absolutely not that. So I appreciated that, but as I'll kind of highlight as I did with Minari, fucking hell, this is a beautiful film. And I think specifically with this one, I do mean specifically the cinematography, just the landscapes and, the various different landscapes you kind of see as Frances McDormand's character kind of travels throughout the western part of the country was just really awe-inspiring to take in. And one thing that stood out for me, I think Minari got nominated for score. I remember liking the score, but it's been a little while since I've seen it. This is something I just finished today, actually, so it's very fresh in my mind. I thought the score on this was excellent. I thought it really,
and the way it's
really
transposed with the landscapes and everything else.
Yeah, it's I don't know, something about it just
elevates it.
It elevates it. Yeah, it felt to me like something like, I don't know. I just, for me, I'm just like, just something about beautiful landscapes set to just really like beautiful music is just like, I'm good. Like, this is something that just appeals to me. Like, it's something that I feel like I would want to do if I, had a different career path and went and doing, making movies and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, it just feels like the type of thing that aesthetically appeals to me, and just feels like this the type of filmmaking that I would want to do. Now, I'm not capable of making anything like this. No, there's no question about that. I'm not capable of anything like this, but it's kind of what I would aspire to. I feel like, in terms of like the approach, I think is just really, really, really cool and really neat. I think it just was just done exceptionally well here. I think that you could take this type of approach to a lot of subject matters, and I think you could fall flat on your face. I think you could. And I think that it would feel even more just like this, like, what is this shit? Like, I don't care. What's the point of this? This, to me, just really, really did it so well. And so it feels unique, but it's also just done really well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, I think, overall. So, and yeah, Frances McDormand was great. Probably agreed with you there. David Strathairn is great. Yeah, I got it. Took me a little while to sink into it, I think, as I mentioned, but once I did, I got it. I don't know that everyone's going to get it, but it worked for me. So another one that, any other non-spoiler thoughts, recommendation time?
No, the only thing that I would say is the sense of community that everybody finds themselves gravitating into was I thought that was a really touching theme throughout the movie. You know what I mean? I don't have people of my own, but I have these are my people now. You know what I mean? This is the community that I and as much as Frances's character she kind of tries to alienate herself and tries to stay apart, she keeps finding herself coming back. And
she's drawn into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sense of belonging that people might not immediately know that they need or want, but they gravitate towards it, you know? And I thought that was a really good theme throughout the movie. But that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Well, in terms of recommendation, I think we can go ahead and have another consensus very yes on this one. I don't know how many varies you want to place in front of the yes. I defer to you on that front, but
this is a very yes movie for me. If I would have watched this, if this was included in both of these movies, to be fair, if they were both included in the viewing, my top 5 would have been completely different. But this movie would have been my number 1 for the year last year.
Okay.
If it was, if I watched it last year, I guess. But
all right, well, keep it in mind for when we reconvene in January of 2022. Well, we're gonna qualify this as a 2021 film and Minari. So that and Judas, we've had three bangers out the gate, I think, for the year. So,
but F9 is coming up. So,
but F9's coming up. It's going to shake things up. Cruella's definitely going to be part of the equation as well. So, some of those might not make the final cut once everything's all said and done. But we have lots of great films, and it's a weird situation where these are obviously being lumped into the Golden Globes and Oscars and stuff like that. But we make our own rules. We do whatever the fuck we want, and we set a timeline, so it is what it is. But anyway, I think the only thing I was going to say was it's another one I'm going to add to my collection. Much like Minari, it's something I will intend to buy at some point whenever it gets a home release. Another one, Criterion comes calling. It feels like something that I would like to see the behind the scenes on this one a lot, because I feel like you could make a proper just documentary out of this film, like out of the making of this film, and I think that would be almost equally compelling as this film. So, but it is on Hulu. It's very accessible for those who have not seen it, and if our words have swayed you into seeing it, then be sure to stop here and check it out, and then come back. And you're back. Okay, we're going to do full spoilers now. So, full spoilers for Nomadland.
I don't have a lot.
Probably not a whole lot. I think there are some... it is a film that I think overall doesn't have a huge driving plot, but there are things that happen, and I think really the setup, too. We haven't really talked about the setup. It's a pretty big fucking deal. She lives in this fucking city... basically, which revolves almost exclusively around this mine and this mining company, and times are a-changing and everything gets shut down, and so all these people just get fucked out of jobs, get fucked out of housing, and we can't help you.
The town totally is eradicated.
The town's a ghost town. Yeah.
They don't even have a zip code anymore. They got rid of the fucking zip code. Got rid of the city. The city is gone.
Yeah. Going back to it at the end was haunting, for the record, too. It was just...
Yeah,
it was really bad.
And, she's literally a woman without a home. She might have a house there, but fuck, the city's not there, the people aren't there, nothing's there. It's not a home anymore. It's literally just a shell.
They probably don't even fucking bring water to the house. You probably couldn't get water there. It's not like she could just move right back in. I'm like, I got a bunch of shit, I'll just chuck it in the house and we'll be good. Like... Yeah, and beyond that, she lost her husband, and he was obviously an integral part of her life, and I think that that's the grief that really occupies her headspace for the entirety of this film, and I think that's very present, obviously, in her interactions with a lot of people. I think she's very guarded, I think, throughout the movie, and I think particularly with David, who clearly develops feelings for her. I think they're largely unrequited because, there's the thing where she's talking about the ring, and wearing the ring. Like, I don't think I could take it off. Like, she is someone who I think is still really, really affected by the loss of her husband. And, of course, some people move on faster than others, and some people they don't. They feel that, in their blood day in, day out. And she certainly is someone that's really, really impacted by that. And I think that is I think she strives to be someone independent, not interdependent on anyone else, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a family member or anything like that. She's a very strong-willed woman, for better or for worse, I guess, in terms of her particular living situation. But, she feels at home in her van, and for all intents and purposes, that is her home. And, and I think that that's what helps bond her with a community of like-minded people, similarly situated people, the Bob Welleses, the Lindas, the Swankies, who know that, who have lived that, who embrace that, and respect that, and I think it's just a really interesting perspective just to see how she interacts with everyone else. The community building is very, very interesting.
Linda May is probably the cutest elderly lady I've ever seen. Linda May is always so happy, just out there doing her own thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Linda May was awesome. Really liked Linda May. Her best friend, which I assume it seemed like she was her best friend anyways.
Yeah, I mean, basically at this point, yeah.
And Swanky's got to see the swallows.
Yeah,
at the end of the movie. Oh, that was just beautiful.
I think Swanky's story, and especially when I think it's in Swanky's van where, she tells Fern that she has cancer and basically, has this like kind of 2-minute monologue about just been like, I want to fucking die in a hospital. I don't want to deal with that shit. Like this, I want to go out on my terms. I want to do it this way. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. And then, you come full circle at the end of the film. She gets touching. The video of that happening, and then they have the moment around the campfire where they all throw the rocks in the fire.
Oh, God damn it.
Kind of celebrating Swanky's life, So I thought that was very, very touching. And I think even Bob, too, Bob, was someone who, like, I think early in the movie, it's just like, oh, he's doing this video, like, come out and hang out, we'll be a bunch of nomads together. And I'm like, is this guy a grifter? Like, what's this fucking deal? But I think you see, Bob believes this stuff, and he's deeply affected by the suicide of his son, as he kind of tells at the end of the movie, and I think that's what really puts the fine point of like this movie being about grief is, Fern talking about her husband and then Bob talking about his son. And I think that's the through line for these people is, they're disaffected in many ways, by their personal tragedies, but also just by their displeasure with capitalism and, this idea, the expectations that society imposes on a lot of people and that they don't really feel like is fair to impose on them for one reason or another. I think even if I'm not ready to jump in a van and start living like a nomad, that's not for me. I can tell you that right now. But I think I understand the sentiment, and I think I understand the appeal. I think for some people, and I think that this movie, again, like Minari, like you don't need to have shared the personal circumstances to get it. I think that the movie does a lot by giving you the stories of really probably a dozen plus people, and just kind of, letting you in on like a little sliver of their life to understand why is this person who they are and where they're at. Like what's their backstory, because you don't get that with people a lot. I mean, you sure should haven't gotten it for the last year when you don't fucking see people and interact with people, I guess, on a real basis like you used to. But, you think about strangers, and I think you probably can speak to this better, and maybe that's why this movie resonated more so for you compared to some others, is you don't know what everyone's deal is. And I think this movie does a good job of just kind of letting you in on this is this person, like that. This is Fern. This is Bob. This is Linda. This is Swanky. a lot of people just look at people and scoff at them and move on with their lives because they don't understand them. And I think this film does touch on that a little bit. I think she's in like a sporting store or something like that. Almost looked like a Dick's or something like that. And like she runs into like a family who clearly knew her previously. And
when she was a substitute teacher.
Yeah, like, are you homeless? Or like, and they're just like, oh, well, if you need somewhere to stay, like, they're being sympathetic and like, nice about it, but they're clearly talking shit behind her back. And, and even the moment when she goes to stay with her sister for a day or two to get the money, like she obviously doesn't want to go there to get money from her sister. Like she doesn't want to sink to that low, but there's something is just like, we can't just all pack up our shit and just do whatever the fuck we want is like what I think her husband-in-law or,
brother-in-law, right?
Brother-in-law says, yes. And like, he's like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. I was like, yeah, but he kind of did. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's just a lack of empathy.
He doesn't really get it. You know what I mean? And it's not that he's a super big asshole or anything like that, but he doesn't fundamentally get it. And I think that's maybe why I say that this movie isn't going to appeal to everyone, is I think on some deep level, a lot of people are going to look at this and still scoff. And I think that's unfortunate, because I think that if you take the time to sit through the sub 2 hours of this film, I think it gives you a very, very good opportunity to listen to these people, to understand these people, and to resonate with kind of where these people are. And maybe the movie still won't work for you. Maybe it doesn't. Obviously it is what it is. Everyone's going to have their own opinions on everything. But I just think the storytelling in this was just really, really potent. Again, very, very strong and very naturalistic in the way that it tells everything. And I thought that was just really, really well done. So my hats are off to the multi-talented Chloe Zhao, writing, directing, and editing. Just
she knew what she wanted to do.
Yeah. And so we'll see what she has in store in a little over 7 months when she brings us the Eternals for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Which is just what the fuck. Oh man, just feel. I mean, I know Marvel likes to pluck indie directors and stuff like that, but it's going to be wild to see that evolution. But I wonder if we'll see commonalities. I wonder if we'll see similar sensibilities and how she goes about making a probably $200 million film versus a $5 million film. You know what I mean? So it's very, very interesting. Other spoiler thoughts? Sorry, I kind of took the mic and started rambling a bit for there. But
that's all I got on it.
Yeah. I mean, I liked that they developed the relationship between her and David. I did wonder where that was going to go. I kind of did feel like, she's, as soon as she realizes like he has decided to live under the roof with his family, I felt like it made sense for him. He felt like he had a place, that he is now been able to go back to. Right. But it wasn't her place, and I kind of got that sense of just being like it felt a little bit like a betrayal to her, of just being like, oh, your van has a blown tire and like you didn't notice it, like you're just like, you're not one of us anymore in a sort of way. But I do also think it was just like, oh no, he's changed. Like, he's in a different place and I'm still not there, and clearly he is looking at me in a certain way and I'm not looking at him. I'm not looking at him in that certain way. So I have to continue to do my own thing. And
she goes out and sees the raging water on the waves,
which is very beautiful. But then the cycle continues back to Amazon, back to, the other nomads, and just,
that's it.
Maybe she'll see him down the road sometime. But that's
Bob says,
that's the nomad lifestyle.
You never really say goodbye.
Yeah.
Say so long, or whatever Bob in his infinite wisdom says.
See you down the road.
Bob. See you down the road.
Fucking Bob. So anyway, fucking Bob, I think, is probably a good way to leave it with Nomadland. Maybe not leave it entirely. I do want to do a small edition of the Listener's Corner, since I have been kind of alluding to this. Avid Listener's Corner contributor Bruce Brown wrote about Nomadland to us. And I don't think I talked about this on a previous episode, but if I did, I apologize. I don't think I did, but here goes. It's appropriate for an episode on Nomadland regardless. He says, I don't get it. We watched her cook on a 1-burner hot plate, do laundry a few times, drive from campground to campground, have the runs, shit on the side of the road. She got a lawn chair given to her. Oh, and her van broke down once as well. No, you betcha, no wood chipper. There was a point, I missed it. The only memorable line was when she was asked if she was homeless. She said, "I'm not homeless, I just don't have a house." So, there are things in there I think that are absolutely true, and I would not disagree with. I think I made a shit bucket joke myself. So,
which was funny. The shit bucket joke was the shit bucket displaying the different shit buckets.
Yeah,
I thought that was
funny.
hilarious.
Yeah. So I think that there is a kind of. I think there's merit to saying, like, why should I care? And I think that sometimes, I think that for something like this, it's a film that is content to spend 2 hours just telling the stories of people, whether it's Frances McDormand or otherwise. And I think that other movies, like Minari, I think as a easy counterexample, have more of a thrust to them and more just kind of traditional modes of storytelling. And this one, I think, feels unique because it doesn't fall into those trappings, but I can see how that's a double-edged sword and that it's not going to appeal broadly. But I do think, I don't think this is like a super polarizing kind of movie or anything like that, but I can definitely just see this being like
it's not for everybody.
This is slow and boring, and it's sad, and I don't like it, and I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, why should I care? And so, you may feel that way. It's perfectly valid to feel that way.
Totally like your opinion, man.
It's totally like your opinion, man. But clearly, we did not feel that way. But I did feel that way for a little bit. Probably 20, 30 minutes, I was just kind of like, all right, what are we doing here? This is
a slog, right?
And like I said, I think you kind of have to sink into it a little bit. But, that's really not different from most movies, especially dramas and stuff like that. You have to understand who these characters are and what's happening before you can give a shit. And I think once that happened for me, I did give a shit. So yeah. So yeah, there you have it, Nomadland. Well, let's return to you. Any other tall tales from Vegas you want to talk about? Anything? I assume you really haven't been up too much besides Vegas since we last recorded.
So Vegas was cool. We gambled. I learned how to play blackjack after I already made considerable donations to the casino, but I finally got the hang of it. The food is absolutely freaking incredible in Vegas. Everywhere you go, the food is absolutely just freaking wonderful. The food is so good. I
noticed.
Oh, go ahead.
I noticed you haven't mentioned that you are a richer man since coming back. Is that for any particular reason?
No, because I lost a shit ton of money gambling. So it's back to the work, back to the grindstone. Thank God I got stimulated before heading out to the fucking casino.
You're gonna have to work on Sundays too,
right? Let's see, what else was it? The food's incredible. The casino, the hotel we were staying at was beautiful. It's the most ritzy place I've ever stayed in my life.
Where did you stay?
We stayed at the Palazzo at the Venetian.
Oh, okay, cool.
Super nice hotel.
Did you do multiple different casinos throughout your time there?
Yeah. So we went to Fremont Street, which has like this. Is really cool. So Fremont Street's like an older part of Vegas, and they have this. It's a street, but from one side of the street to the other side of the street, across the rooftop, they have this giant display that stretches all the way down the strip. So like, there's planets and stuff going above you, or there's whatever. There's all sorts of stuff they play on the screen. So that was really cool. It was, the Grand Canyon is incredible. And there's all sorts of cool, they do different themes at different hotels. We went to Caesar's Palace. We walked through Caesar's Palace, and they had this in these shops. These shops had this these big marble. What are they called? Not structures, sculptures. And just stunning, ridiculously beautiful. But one of the coolest things, okay, Highway 56. We've been building Highway 56 for 10 years. Well, it seems like they've been building it for fucking decade, right? Mm-hmm. They built the Hoover Dam in 4 years. The Hoover Dam was built in 4 freaking years. Completely bonkers. The amount of infrastructure right there, the amount of work that went into going through a canyon and stopping the flow of water and generating electricity for all these different states. It's in the 30s. They built it in the 30s. It's complete. People were still riding horses and shit in the 30s. It's completely mind-boggling. And the worst, most insulting thing that I think I've ever seen is they built these giant, like the tops of the buildings are like made of copper or whatever, right? And they have these giant angel things, like talking about the people that passed away, so that they could let the desert bloom. I think is one of the things it says on the placard. And they're all like not corroded, but whatever copper does, right? It gets like green, you know? I could not imagine what that looked like when it was done and it was all brand new copper or just clean. And it all shined in the sun and sparkled and everything else. It looks like it's decaying. And there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of appreciation for the feat that it is, like the modern engineering the engineering that went into it and what it stood for and everything else. It's just absolutely incredible. And what can you point to that's been built today, like the Grand Canyon? Yeah, right. You know, the Grand Canyon. Did I say Grand Canyon? I meant the Hoover Dam.
Probably works for either. I guess
Whatever,
the Grand Canyon is more of a natural formation. Hoover Dam is a testament to the engineering of men or whatnot.
But the Hoover Dam completely changed the West in a huge way. It gave electricity. It slowed the flow of water, and it's this massive thing. It was built in the 30s. It was built in 4 years. And I don't know, man. It just, like I said, I drove over it once and I thought, yeah, that was pretty cool. But I actually walked around it and stuff and read all the signs and, you know, I didn't take a proper tour because it was closed because of COVID, but absolutely just mind-boggling. That's another shout out to Nevada for everybody in Nevada wears their masks and they're super like, for example, the casino. The casino's got plexiglass shields between each seat at its card table.
Okay.
You're not
smart.
If they every time you get up, the pit boss has to come around and sanitize everything before somebody else sits down. They sanitize all the chips, all the pads on the table. I mean, they're super, super on top of it. They do and even walking down the street in the middle of the strip with all these people, everybody's got their mask on. Like it was,
yeah.
Like it was, I was like, oh shit, people take this shit seriously. I wouldn't know that in Florida. You know, I didn't know it's still a thing everywhere else, I guess. But other than that, though, it was a really good experience. I had a really good time. Excellent vacation. They sold 10 cars while I was away, so I left in like 1 week. And Trevor was there by himself. My dad wasn't there because he decided to go to Blue Ridge. And so Trevor's literally there by himself with the new girl that we hired. And he said it was a week of hell. And he was not very pleased. So I will not be taking another March spring break vacation ever again. It's too much on the work. But yeah. I watched The Gentleman on the flight.
Oh, yeah, nice. Was it good?
I like that movie.
Okay. I bought it on 4K when it was on sale on Black Friday, and I have yet to watch it. But I
liked it.
I want to sit down and watch it sometime. So
I like his it's Guy Ritchie. I like his means of storytelling. I thought it was humorous and dark and humorous, and I thought I'm sitting there on the flight and I got my ear things in because it was on the headrest of the plane or whatever, and I'm sitting there laughing my ass off at certain parts, and I felt like an idiot because, you know, obviously it's all quiet on a plane, everybody's sleeping. But I did watch that, and I also watched oh fuck, I can't remember. I was gonna watch Jojo Rabbit, but it said it was modified from its original version. Like the moment I booted it up, and I was like, I'm not interested in watching it. Like
an edited,
yeah. Like I don't know how they edited it, and I don't want. I just prefer not to know.
Yeah,
so
just watch it properly sometime.
I turned it off, and I didn't end up watching anything. I went to watch Citizen Kane, and I fell asleep. So, yeah. But yeah, overall, super awesome experience.
Good. Certainly a memorable vacation, and well, I think between the experiences itself, the engagement, I think there's a lot to take back with you. And sorry, you're back to the old grind. That's the worst part of vacation, is getting back to reality. But you still have those memories locked up tight.
Yep, locked up top.
So that's good. Well, in your absence, I've been watching a few things. I haven't been recording a whole lot of podcasts, I'll tell you that, but I have been watching a few things. No, it's fine. I've been spending plenty of time editing podcasts. I'm now caught up. I'm caught up as of right now. And however many minutes until we finish this, I won't be caught up as of then. But for now, I'm caught up. Anna and I did a Watergate double feature of sorts.
Nice.
We watched All the President's Men, which is on HBO Max. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Before I get into it, okay. So it is a film about Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, who are two journalists who worked for the Washington Post, who basically unraveled the full scope of the Watergate scandal. Basically,
oh shit!
All the major players under Richard Nixon, and basically leading back to Richard Nixon, although the film doesn't really get... It kind of cuts off at a certain point in the investigation, and history has filled in the rest of the gaps for us. But it's very good. Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman are the two main characters in it. Robert Redford looks almost identical to Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time on Hollywood, and it was very fucking distracting for many parts of it. It's the first time I've ever seen it. It reminded me of, my reference point was Zodiac. Zodiac's a film that's about investigative journalism, about a serial killer. Here it's not about a serial killer, although one might argue that he is, given Richard Nixon's history, in a way. But it was really good. It was a very compelling watch, very tight film where, each scene they're kind of unraveling something new or investigating something new and trying to figure out how everything kind of ties together. And it was very fun to kind of watch that unfold. I knew good chunks of this, but not all of it. And it was based off of a book written by Bob Woodward, that basically detailed the whole investigation into the Watergate scandal. So it was very cool. It was very interesting to see that. And so we were inspired by that, and we ended up watching Frost Nixon as kind of the second part to our little Watergate double feature. It's a much more recent film. All the President's Men was like mid-'70s. Frost Nixon came out, I think, late 2000s. It's a Ron Howard film starring Michael Sheen and Frank Langella. And it's basically about this. The way Anna put it, I think, is probably the best way of putting it. It's about this TV interview, of this British talk show host, basically, who was working on a show in Australia at the time, interviewing President Richard Nixon after he had resigned the presidency in the wake of the Watergate scandal. And the way that she put it was, it's the equivalent of Graham Norton having a sit down with Trump right now, and just like, what does that look like? And so everyone from the outside in thought this thing was going to be a fucking joke. Like, this guy's not a real journalist. This guy's not, and we love Graham Norton, obviously. He's very funny, but like, do we want that? You know what I mean? And so
that would be a stupendous interview.
It would be very entertaining. It would be very entertaining, but I don't know if we would expect it to be hard hitting per se. And so this one kind of veered into hard hitting territory when it came to Watergate, and Nixon made some admissions of, basically, if a president does it, it's not illegal, that sort of thing. And it's just like, I don't think that's going to hold up in court, dude. That sort of thing. Or I don't think that's what the Constitution necessarily says. I don't remember seeing that in there anywhere, but
right.
It was good. It was good. I think All the President's Men was kind of the better of the two, but Frost Nixon was very cool, more modern aftermath of it. And it was pretty well done, based off of like a play. And it's the same, I think, creator as The Crown. He's someone, I think, Peter Morgan, he's very interested in doing these historical things. But it was good. So I enjoyed that double feature. And it's fun because I am still editing, actually, a paper that I wrote while in law school about the pardon and commutation power, and, of course, President Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon before he had actually been indicted for any sort of crimes is kind of an infamous use of the pardon power. So it was kind of fun to see a couple films that have that were related to kind of some of the research that I had done for that. So I thought it was neat. Outside of films, TV things that I've been doing, we finished The Undoing. I think last we recorded, we only had one more episode to go. This is the Hugh Grant, Nicole Kidman whodunit murder mystery show on HBO. 6 episodes. We found out whodunit. It was surprising, and it wasn't, is what I would say about it. But I thought it was a satisfying reveal of the particular aspect of the whodunit. I thought it was good. It's a very bingeable, short show to watch that keeps you guessing kind of at every turn. And I think it ended fairly well. It's not amazing. I don't think it would have changed my calculus too much for my best shows of 2020, but I did enjoy watching it, and I thought Hugh Grant and Nicole Kidman were both very good in it. So yeah, it's pretty solid. You could. Yeah. You could do a lot worse. You could do something a little bit better, but it was pretty good overall. I enjoyed it. We also watched, I think Anna's been talking about watching it for the longest time, Framing Britney Spears, the New York Times Presents documentary, which I found super fascinating and troubling in many ways. So basically, I think Enrique talked about this when we talked about WandaVision, when we did our WandaVision episode. I think he mentioned it. Basically, Britney Spears, obviously everyone knows who fucking Britney Spears is. I don't need to explain who Britney Spears is. But basically, you probably remember the period of time where she shaved her head bald, and everyone was like, oh, she's lost it, she's crazy, whatever. And so basically, as a result of that, her father filed for a conservatorship over her assets and her estate. So basically, her dad is in control of like what she does with her life and her finances. It's really fucked up. Because, she's just a grown-ass woman who is, of sound mind, who basically lashed out at the paparazzi for being fuckheads like they are, and that was kind of the impetus for all that. So she's been kind of stuck in this thing where she really hasn't had creative ownership over what she does with her life. She's been doing, a Vegas residency for a couple of years, and all her, she doesn't have control of her finances. She doesn't have control of where she tours and stuff like that. It's just really kind of insane. And it's kind of unprecedented legally speaking, because conservatorships are usually for people who are senile, who are not of mental, or not of a sound mental mind. And, she's still pretty young. She really is still pretty young. It's not like, can she not take it to court and have it dismissed? She has. That's kind of what it is she's tried, and it's been unsuccessful so far. I think the biggest success so far, as it kind of touches on, is that she's been able to add a bank to the conservatorship to kind of have control of her finances, and that's something that she wanted. So, that was somewhat of a victory, but she hasn't been able to get her dad off of it, and basically her dad fucking sucks. And there's this huge Free Britney movement that's gotten a lot of traction, but legally speaking,
saw that on what's his face on John Oliver.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. It's wild. It's a fucking wild story. It's like an hour, 15 minutes long, so it's really not too long. But if Sarah was a Britney Spears fan at any point in her life, which she probably was, maybe still is, I think it's interesting. I think it's compelling to watch. I found the legal aspects of it very intriguing, but I think it's worth a watch regardless of your legal knowledge. So I would recommend it. It's on Hulu as well, so you can watch it on Hulu. Last but not least, I finished a book in the span of time since we last recorded. I finished Star Wars Lost Stars by Claudia Gray, which is a young adult novel, it's 550 pages, but multiple spacing, and it's kind of simplistically written. So it's very easy to fly through that book, and fly through it. I did indeed. It was kind of intended to be my break between going from a huge Brandon Sanderson novel to another even bigger Brandon Sanderson novel. So it was a break in the action. I thought it was brilliant. Might be one of the favorites, my favorite Star Wars thing I've read since they started developing this new canon. I was really, really impressed with it. So the basic story of it is there's these two kind of kids on like this like backwater planet who's in like the Outer Rim or whatever. The Empire comes, then starts recruiting on that planet, and this is like right around the formation of the Empire, post Revenge of the Sith, saying we need people to go to our academy, and so they get inspired. They go to the academy, and like they're really, really close friends. It's a boy and girl, and so they go to the academy together. You know, they're the best of friends, and basically they join the Imperial service together. And then one of them starts to drift away and realize, oh, the Empire are a bunch of fucking Nazis. I'm not really into this sort of thing. And so he leaves, trends towards the Rebel Alliance, whereas the other person is kind of honor bound to stay in the Empire. And so basically it tracks these two people's lives, and they kind of intersperse their lives with all the major activities throughout the original trilogy, all the way up until the Battle of Jakku. Kind of pre-Force Awakens. So you get the destruction of Alderaan, the destruction of the Death Star, the Battle of Hoth, the
second Death Star,
and then
the death of Palpatine.
The death of Palpatine. And so it's like how these two characters fit into all the major events that we know from the original trilogy, and like the nature of their relationship being on opposite sides of the conflict, sometimes same sides of the conflict, and then how that all kind of resolves, basically leading up to the pre-Force Awakens era of the First Order and the New Republic. The New Republic is what I'm thinking of. It's just really well done. You know, the way that it seeds these two kind of fictional, these new invented characters for the book into the actual history of everything else. And, you have certain characters pop up, like Leia pops up, Vader appears, Palpatine appears, Wedge is in it. It's just really neat how they did it. And I thought it was just really super compelling. Like the relationship between the two felt very real, very earned. And, you kind of found yourself like pulled apart by the fact that these two, were really struggling with being on opposite sides of each other and seeing each other infrequently. So I was very impressed by it. I really, really liked Star Wars Lost Stars. I recommend it highly. It's something that had been sitting on my bookshelf for years. I bought it a while back when it went on sale because I'd heard it was very good. And Anna said, you should read this. You can get through this very quickly, before you read another 1,000-page book that's going to take you 3 months to get through. And
read
so I did.
This. Right.
So I did exactly that. So I have Words of Radiance, the second in the Stormlight Archive, now sitting on my I guess little shelf there with the slip cover off because it's ready to go next. But it'll be a while before I finish reading that. Let's just put it that way. So it's a satisfying read. Highly recommend it. And now it's back to the Brandon Sanderson grind for me. So yeah, that's what I've been up to in your absence. In your absence, I've been up to a few things. But that does it for me. That probably does it for you.
That does it for me, yeah. That's the it. That's the it. Well, in that case, since that is the it, thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. If you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. It's good for getting early access to our episodes, timed exclusive access to any forthcoming bonus episodes. Maybe Andrew and I will sit down and have a conversation on how we want to tackle some bonus episodes for the rest of the year. Haven't had the conversation yet. We turned around some of the Patreon funds into the donation for the AAPI community fund, as we talked about on the last episode on Raya. So we're using the money to keep the podcast going and help kind of cover website and hosting costs and stuff like that. But we're also putting it to good causes that will hopefully help create social change in this country, because God knows we need it. So yeah, patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. It's only $2 a month that we're asking for. It's not a whole lot. So lots of good things that can come out of that. Our website's watchreviewrepeat.com. We are on Twitter @WRRpod. You can like our page on Facebook, but just by searching for Watch Review Repeat. Questions, comments, suggestions. If you too did not get Nomadland, or you did, and you have some thoughts, and if you liked Minari and you have some thoughts, or if you have some thoughts on what we're talking about on the next episode, #release the Snyder Cut. Send those our way. Watch review
repeat, good Lord, watch, review, repeat at gmail.com. That's our email. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Our next episode is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Oh my God, it's on HBO Max. Andrew and I have sat through all 4 hours of it, and we haven't said a single. Well, I guess we've probably said 1 or 2 words about it to this point, but
we haven't talked a whole lot about it.
Lots to unpack there.
4 hours worth.
4 hours worth. It'll be a 4-hour episode as justice demands. We'll we're just going to do a commentary on top of it is what we'll do.
That's it. Put it on the YouTubes.
Yeah, probably not. But anyway, I'm excited to talk about it. There's lots to unpack in a 4-hour movie like that. We may or may not have a guest with us. We're trying to figure that out, I think, right now. But we'll be recording that in the near future. So look forward to our coverage of the Snyder Cut. And yeah, that's it for this episode. Andrew, why don't you take us out?
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Laters on the Menge.